Let me tell you about how I accidentally ended up married to a man with a bad reputation, as well as about the great love that a mother should feel for her child. Get ready for what you have to learn about an inconspicuous brown shipping container and a company in document in a seemingly ordinary kitchen faucet. At that moment, life was filled with happiness, and my adoration of my wife outweighed everything else. Our marital union was overflowing with fervor, and we enjoyed each other's company. At the same time, do not forget that our social life was boiling, embracing both friends and family. Before going into details, let me tell you my full name, Stanley Oliver Smith. My parents, George and Barbara, deliberately decided to give me the initials SOS, hence my legal name. But it's worth noting that everyone affectionately calls me Baba. This affectionate nickname was given to me by my sister, Haran, who, speaking about her younger brother, inadvertently pronounced Baba instead of brother. Holly, my wife, and I were born in June 1981. It was during my first participation in the SOS Autumn Migration in September 2002, together with my parents, that I had the good fortune to meet Holly. In the years of my growing up, both my sister and mother insisted that I learn the Carolina shag dance and even forced me to study with them. I had no idea that this would be a turning point in my life. It was on the dance floor that my eyes met Holly, and my heart started beating faster. The instant connection was undeniable, and I immediately realized that I had to dance with her. Looking back, I can sincerely thank my sister and mom for insisting on mastering the Carolina shag dance. Holly, a native of Charleston, South Carolina, moved to Columbia after graduating from the College of Charleston with a degree in marketing. Her parents, Doug and Paula Owens, still reside in Charleston. Holly currently holds a position in an insurance company in Columbia, located just 2 miles from my own home. My close friend from school years is Ralph Jones, whom everyone knows him affectionately calls RJ. His parents, Earl and Gloria, still live next to my parents. Throughout our childhood, Earl was the coach of the basketball team, which included RJ and me, and my grandfather was the coach of the football team. Fast forward to the present, both RJ and I proudly graduated from the University of South Carolina and now work as sales representatives for the same company. As for recent events, you already know about my beloved wife, with the participation of both parents, my best friend, and his parents. It's time to continue our fairy tale. Since Holly and I crossed paths during the autumn migration, we have made it a tradition to attend all SOS events together with our parents. In addition, we live in one cozy 3-bedroom apartment located within walking distance of the beach clubs. Over the past 3 years, my daily routine has remained unchanged. Every morning at exactly 5:25 a.m., I get out of bed and start rigorous workout. On Mondays and Wednesdays, I hold incendiary basketball matches with a group of friends, among whom there's RJ. On Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, intensive strength training. Thanks to this discipline, I managed to maintain an ideal weight. Holly also attaches great importance to physical fitness, although she prefers to work out in the afternoon rather than starting her day at 5:30 in the morning. As I was sitting leisurely, engrossed, and watching American Idol, Holly's gaze shifted to me, after which she reminded me, "Baba, let's not forget that we need to be at the airport by noon tomorrow." "Of course, dear," I replied, looking forward to the upcoming beach holiday in Cancun. "I'll take half of tomorrow off work, and as soon as I get back from training, I'll immediately start packing our things," I promised her. "Don't worry, my love, I will make sure to be collected, prepared, and look forward to your arrival," I assured Holly with a grin. "You know, I can't help but feel irreplaceable at my job, while your company will surely do fine without you." She playfully joked in response. "Next weekend, we are going to Cancun for 4 days and 3 nights to celebrate our 3rd wedding anniversary. Considering that garbage collection in our area takes place every Thursday, I try to collect garbage on Wednesday evening after the end of the American Idol show. I diligently walk around the house collecting waste from various garbage cans. Eventually, I bring the trash into the end of the driveway so it's ready to be taken out. After successfully dragging the trash cart to the end of the driveway, I return to the garage to pick up the trash container with a sense of accomplishment. I made sure that all the doors were securely locked and the outdoor lighting was turned off. After that, I rejoin Holly to enjoy watching TV. As soon as I was settled in my seat, Holly asked the question that caught me off guard. "Where are suitcases?" "Oh, they're in the basement," I replied, confused. "I guess you should bring them tonight after all," Holly said, and I agreed, promising to bring them before going to bed. But a few minutes passed while I was sitting and thinking about the need to have 3 suitcases and 1 carry-on for our 4-day trip. And yet, early Thursday morning, I eagerly got out of bed, ready to go on a long-awaited vacation. I quickly prepared for the upcoming day. By 5:40 in the morning, I was already dressed and ready to leave. When I got into the car, I couldn't help but notice the remains of 2 coffee glasses, a bottle of water, a bag of fast food, and a broken umbrella scattered in it. Leaving the entrance, I noticed a trash can staining next to it, which prompted me to get rid of the accumulated garbage. When I opened the basket, I was amazed that there was an ordinary brown shipping box on it. Curiosity got the better of me, and I wondered who could have added their trash to mine. But when I picked up the box and noticed that it was addressed to Hall Owens, I was shocked. Suddenly, 2 additional subjects demanded my immediate attention, and I had no time to think. When I saw an ordinary brown box, 2 puzzle thoughts flashed through my head. First, I wondered why Holly's maiden name was printed on the label. Second, I could not understand why the letter was addressed to her office, not to our home. Curiosity got the better of me, and I opened the box and its contents. There was a packing list waiting for me inside, which listed various items of clothing, including a skirt and a bra. In treat, I handed over the box and packing list, confident that Holly had purchased these items as a pleasant surprise for our upcoming trip. But the question did not leave me. What is this bra? When I got home after training, I saw that Holly's suitcases were neatly placed by the door. After taking a refreshing shower, I packed my own suitcase and loaded it into the car, looking forward to our journey. At exactly 11:25 a.m., I found myself parked outside Holly's office, patiently waiting for her to show up. Fortunately, our flight flew according to schedule, and we arrived in Cancun on time by 4 p.m. Soon, we were lying on the beach, enjoying the tranquility and serenity of the environment. As evening approached, we decided to have dinner in one of the charming restaurants of the hotel. After the meal, we went to an incendiary dance, which lasted until 2 o'clock in the morning. I was looking forward to seeing Holly's new underwear while she disappeared into the bathroom. I lay in bed and patiently waited for her solemn exit, imagining her in a seductive bra. But to my surprise, when she appeared, she was wearing a large white t-shirt decorated with 2 bright pink flamingos on the front. My shock was palpable, because such an unexpected turn of events took me by surprise. My expression must have betrayed my surprise because Holly caught my concern and immediately showed concern. "Bob, are you all right? You didn't get sick during our vacation." "Did you?" she asked with obvious concern in her voice. I reassured her that I was fine, but admitted that I expected to see her in one of the seductive nightgowns that she received at the wedding celebration and not in a t-shirt with a pink flamingo. She asked in perplexity why she should wear something else, knowing me too well. "If I know you, I will undress in 30 seconds anyway," she confidently declared. "If I know you, I will undress in 30 seconds anyway," she confidently declared. We both laughed at the accuracy of her statement. After turning off the light, we went to bed together. After passionate intimacy, we quietly fell asleep in each other's arms. When I woke up, I immediately started making coffee, heralding the beginning of a new day. While I was sitting on the balcony and enjoying my morning coffee, thoughts were swarming in my head about the package that Holly received from Trashilandra. I couldn't help but wonder why I had never seen any of the items listed on the packing list. Just as these thoughts were engulfing me, Holly joined me on the balcony. We had a leisurely breakfast together and then decided to go on an exciting snorkeling trip along a busy reef. We quickly signed up for an excursion at the local tour desk, looking forward to exploring the underwater world. We had an absolutely incredible experience, and I hardly recommend this tour to everyone who comes to Cancun. Snorkeling along the reef is a must-have event that is guaranteed to leave an indelible impression. After returning, we took a relaxing shower and had a quick dinner. With the onset of dusk, we were looking forward to the opportunity to plunge into the vibrant nightlife of Cancun. I don't remember the details of the numerous bars that we visited, but I can say with confidence that we got great pleasure from exploring the vibrant nightlife. The next day was similar to the previous one, except that instead of snorkeling, we devoted time to shopping in a noisy market. I couldn't resist buying a necklace that Holly liked, as well as a chest set for myself. The evening was approaching, and we were looking forward to the anniversary of our wedding and at the same time, the last night in Cancun. We decided to celebrate this event with a quiet, secluded dinner, cherishing the precious minutes spent together. After a delicious meal, we strolled along the beach arm in arm, immersed in deep conversations about our future and the wonderful path that we have to go. United by a love for children, Holly and I agreed that in January she would stop taking birth control pills. As we sauntered back to the hotel, Holly mentioned that she had something special for us. When we got to our room, excitement overwhelmed me when the memory of the packing list flashed through my head. I was looking forward to seeing Holly in her new outfit. Entering the room, Holly quickly grabbed her carry-on bag and disappeared into the bathroom. At this time, I took out a gift that I bought for her on our anniversary. A few moments later, Holly emerged from the bathroom with an unambiguous grin on her face. But oddly enough, she was wearing the same outfit as a dinner. There was confusion in the air, and I couldn't figure out what exactly her surprise was. With excitement, Holly handed me an envelope and exclaimed, "Happy anniversary! I love you so much! You've made me the happiest woman on earth. Now open it quickly. I can wait to see your reaction when you find out what's inside." Her delight was contagious, and I couldn't help but be intrigued by her excitement. Deciding to play along with her, I replied, "Holly, my love for you is only getting stronger every day. Before we open my gift, why don't you open yours?" She protested that she was looking forward to this secret from me. The anticipation in the room was growing, and we were preparing to reveal the surprises that we had carefully planned for our special day. Not wanting to delay the moment any longer, Holly insisted that I immediately open the envelope and familiarize myself with its contents. And although I was doubtful at first, her firm confidence convinced me that I needed to act. Slowly unwrapping the envelope, I scanned the sincere words on the card and then turned my gaze to Holly. Suddenly, she screamed with joy, jumped into my arms, and bit into my lips with a kiss. "I knew you'd like it, and the expression on your face is priceless," she exclaimed with glee. The note enclosed in the postcard turned out to be an unusual surprise: a pair of tickets for the NASCAR night race at Bristol Motor Speedway in Bristol, Tennessee. For those who are not familiar with this event, it is an exciting and eventful race that is cherished by racing fans. Getting tickets for the much-coveted night race in Bristol turned out to be an almost insurmountable task, but to my surprise, Holly managed to get them. Perplexed, I asked, "Thank you very much. How did you manage to get these tickets?" With a twinkle in her eyes, she told me that she won them in competition at work, especially for the Busch and Cup races. Overwhelmed with gratitude, I expressed my thanks for her winning this particular competition. "Thank you," I exclaimed. Wanting to reciprocate, I asked her to open the gift I had prepared for her. Taking Holly in my arms, I kissed her gently, conveying my love and appreciation for everything she had done. The next day, we got up early to spend a few more hours on the beach before leaving. By 1 o'clock in the afternoon, we were at the airport looking forward to flying home. As soon as the plane took off, Holly fell asleep, leaving me alone with my thoughts. My head was spinning with questions related to the mysterious brown box and packing list. I couldn't recall that in the 4 years of my relationship with Holly I had ever mentioned any company competition. A feeling of anxiety settled in me, forcing me to dig deeper and get to the truth. Why did Holly order underwear at trashy lingerie? What was the significance of her maiden name on the packing list, and what happened to these items of clothing? These pressing questions bothered me, but I didn't know how to get answers to them. Trying to maintain a semblance of normality, I thought I was succeeding until Holly asked the question that shattered my composure. "You're unusually quiet. Is everything all right?" Holly's worried voice brought me out of deep thought. "Yes, it's all right," I replied, trying to brush off suspicions. "I'm just thinking about work and what I need to do tomorrow. Also, I need to plan a vacation for our upcoming trip to Bristol." My answer seemed to calm her down, although unanswered questions and doubts continued to swirl in my head. The next morning, While playing basketball with the guys, my behavior did not go unnoticed. Nick, as always astute, took advantage of the break to express his thoughts. "Okay, Baba, come clean. You've just returned from Cancun, where you celebrated your anniversary. You should be on top of the world, but you seem to be depressed. What's really going on with you?" Such directness took me by surprise, but I quickly pulled myself together. "It's okay, Nick," I replied, trying to brush off his concern, but confusion continued to grow inside me. "I guess I'm used to sleeping a little longer on vacation," I replied, hoping that my explanation would be enough. But Nick continued to insist, assuring me that my physical form did not go unnoticed, and that it was not the first time I was returning from vacation with concern written on his face. He claimed that something was bothering me, and as a friend, he would like to know what the cause of my stress was. His words made my heart ache, and after a short internal struggle, I finally gave in. For the next 5 minutes, my friends demanded answers from me until I told them about the existence of the trash lingerie box. Together, we discussed how to uncover the truth about Holly's actions. Each of them offered their support, promising to follow up on any information or items that could help our investigation. Grateful for their support, I felt a surge of new strength and determination as our collective efforts began to take shape. The next morning, instead of the usual workout, we got together to discuss the digital voice recorders that my friends had brought. We developed a plan according to which a telephone line recorder would be installed on our home phone, and a digital voice recorder would be installed in Holly's car, hoping to record any important information. Unfortunately, we could not find a suitable application for the baby monitor because its capabilities did not meet our requirements. Kusei recorders were deemed impractical due to their noise when turned on and off, as well as limited recording capacity. Fortunately, Trey volunteered to share his experience, offering to come to my house and help me install a video camera. With his help, we hoped to uncover all possible secrets hidden in our house. Together, we firmly decided to get to the bottom of the mystery, supporting each other in this difficult matter. Using the 2 dip-tie phones I had in my disposal, I came up with a system in which every morning before going to training, I switched them. During the day, I listened to the conversations recorded on tapes. As for the digital voice recorder in Holly's car, I had to remove the internal memory card and listen to its contents before installing it in place. By applying these measures, I hoped to get information about Holly's conversations on her home phone, as well as about the conversations she had in the car. In addition, by installing a babysitter camera, I would be able to observe the actions in our room and in the corridor leading to our bedroom. At the same time, I admitted that I would not be able to listen to her conversations on her mobile phone if she was not in her car. In addition, I would not have access to her conversations in the workplace or in other places outside of our immediate environment. There was a problem: how to check where Holly is and who she spends time with when not with me. As far as I knew, her usual daily routine involved leaving home at 7:50 a.m. to go to work. After finishing work at 4:30 p.m., she went to training and then returned home. Sometimes she would visit and have dinner with my parents on some of my school nights. Given this information, we decided to collectively think about how to track Holly's movements during the day. But we faced a limitation. Holly was familiar with only one person from our basketball group, RJ, which means that he could not be involved in tracking. This made us think about alternative strategies for discreetly observing her actions and collecting the necessary information. When we gathered for the morning meeting, Jason shared an intriguing solution to our tracking problem. He said that he discussed this issue with his wife, who offered to involve his grandfather. It turned out that my grandfather often complained that he had nothing to do, which caused him to have anxiety attacks. Jason talked to Grandpa the night before, and he was happy to help us. Moreover, Grandfather offered to involve his brother Bob in our venture. One of them could be a driver, and the other could document everything that happens with a video camera. Driven by curiosity, we turned to each other, wanting to know the opinion of the group. Everyone unanimously agreed that Jason's wife had indeed come up with a brilliant idea. Interest in this idea grew as we realized the potential value of bringing Jason's grandfather and his brother to participate in our tracking. With their help, it seemed to us we would be able to quietly gather the necessary information and get closer to revealing the truth. The idea quickly caught on, and before I knew it, the rest of my basketball buddies were thinking about asking their grandparents to help us too. It was an unexpected turn of events. I'm Friday morning. I saw that not only my regular basketball friends were waiting for me, but also two other people. After getting acquainted, we wasted no time in developing a comprehensive plan for monitoring Holly's activities. The group was divided into teams, each of which received specific tasks for different days. They had to keep a close eye on Holly during her commute, lunch breaks, workouts, and homecoming. In addition, during the weekend, the group familiarized themselves with the main places such as my house, my parents' house, and Holly's office. This way, they would have a general idea of where Holly should be every day. The surveillance operation was supposed to begin on Monday morning. Every day, we gathered in the morning to share relevant information and coordinate our actions. Excitement and anticipation were felt in our group as we pooled our resources and worked together to uncover the truth about Holly's activities. At the Wednesday morning meeting, we gathered to analyze the events of the previous day. To our surprise, John introduced us to his friend Fred, who 2 years ago quit the security company and showed sincere interest in helping us. During the conversation, RJ drew attention to a significant gap in our surveillance plan. He said that apparently we managed to track almost all of Holly's actions except when she is at work. In search of a solution, he spoke about his research of companies engaged in online video surveillance and mentioned the availability of 8-hour digital voice recorders equipped with AC adapters and extended microphones. However, RJ admitted that there is a problem with these devices. They don't work properly. This prompted us to brainstorm alternative ideas and explore other possible options for monitoring Holly when she is in the workplace. Based on Fred's experience and the collective creative potential of the group, we were determined to find a suitable solution that would allow us to effectively track Holly's actions throughout the working day. Taking into account the concerns expressed, we delved into the possibility of introducing 8-hour digital voice recorders in Holly's office. Questions were raised regarding the logistics of the installation and the process of uploading records to my computer, which revealed potential problems. In addition, the group expressed doubts about the legal consequences of entering the territory or breaking in. RJ, trying to take into account all the nuances, frankly shared his thoughts that it was unlikely that Holly would engage in any illegal activity at her workplace in the presence of numerous colleagues. Despite the fact that his statements were disappointing, I appreciated his desire for thoroughness in the investigation. Feeling overwhelmed and grateful for the exceptional efforts shown by this group, I could not contain my gratitude. After 2 weeks of their constant support, I found an opportunity to sincerely express my gratitude. Addressing the group, I said, "I want to take a moment and sincerely thank each of you for everything you have done. Your dedication and willingness to help just amazed me." For the past 2 weeks, Holly has been performing the role of a faithful life in an exemplary manner. I didn't notice any inappropriate behavior from her. Her daily routine consists of going to work, shopping with friends, visiting my parents, playing sports, and going to the grocery store. I only saw her in the company of her friends, colleagues, and my parents. With that in mind, I suggest giving her another week before giving up the search. On Friday morning, our active group gathered for the last time. I thank everyone for their dedication and efforts over the past 3 weeks. I am very grateful to all of you for giving me the necessary confidence in my wife's fidelity in our marriage. It's time to do away with surveillance equipment and move on. I sincerely wish all the best to you and your families and all your future endeavors. Henry chimed in, "Baba, we can't help but thank you for giving us the opportunity to work purposefully. Thanks to this investigation, we not only worked together but also established strong friendships. I would like to inform you that we have contacted several lawyers in the city offering our services, and I am pleased to announce that we have received work from next Wednesday. Goodbye, monotonous days in the rocking chair, wishing everyone a pleasant and safe weekend." I packed up the video cameras and went out. To my surprise, when I mentioned the return of the equipment, they insisted that I keep it for myself or give it to someone in need, as it was easier for them than it had disappeared from their homes. RJ was about to get into his car when I approached him at the window. "RJ, I'm going to stop by the house to turn everything off before going to the office. Please let Harry know that I have a personal matter before we meet. Be sure I'll bring him up to speed before I even have my first cup of coffee." He asked if I needed any help, to which I replied with a firm now. I said it wouldn't take long and neither of us would have to be late. Maybe they thought I was crazy, but I just couldn't give up. There were still too many unanswered questions, and it was unbearable for me to keep this group in endless pursuit. They had already wasted 3 weeks of their precious time, and now I had to take a different approach. After running to my house and changing into fresh clothes, the first thing I did was move the recorder into place. Then I came across a book similar in size to a video recorder. Ingeniously, I removed the cover of the book and definitely cut a hole for the camera lens. I carefully wrapped the nanny video camera in the original book cover and returned it to its usual place on the bookshelf where it had been for the last 2 years. It was not easy to find a suitable place for the laptop camera, but after some thought, I decided to move it to the garage. This strategic location would allow me to observe if Holly brought home another brown box, and finally, I discreetly placed a digital voice recorder from Holly's car under the sofa just where she usually sits. After putting all the appliances in their places, I took a refreshing shower, and after making sure that the door was securely locked, went to meet Harry. Holly, my parents, and I gathered at our favorite Greek restaurant for a delicious dinner, talking about our long-awaited trip to Bristol. During the meal, my father asked, "Do you know where your seats are?" To which Holly replied, "Not yet, but they should be of good quality." My father was puzzled but doubted her confident answer. Holly explained, "Mr. Johnson, our esteemed CEO, has generously provided 2 of his personal tickets. As I understand it, he gets 6 tickets for every race, so if they meet his standard, they should be exceptional for us." My father teasingly remarked, "Well, my dear, you'd better make sure that your behavior is impeccable if you sit next to him." At that moment, I mentally reminded myself that I had crossed out the race tickets from my list of concerns. If the source of these tickets is Mr. Johnson, then I can be sure that everything related to this event is legal. Having had enough of delicious food, we prepared to leave on Saturday morning. Holly seemed to be in high spirits when I entered the kitchen after a refreshing shower. I was surprised to see that Holly was already awake and diligently preparing breakfast. It was the first time in our 3 years of marriage that Holly got up before 10 a.m. on a Saturday. Laughing, she said, "Oh dear, I'm just overwhelmed with joy. I couldn't sleep a wink." "I am happy, of course, but it seems that your exaltation surpasses even mine. What could have happened to cause such great joy?" "We went on an incredible trip to Cancun, are looking forward to an exciting race in Bristol, and are even thinking about starting a family. I have many reasons for joy and gratitude, and I cannot express in words how much I love you. But let's put off breakfast for now and go back to bed to share our love. As much as I would like it, unfortunately, we don't have time. In case you forgot, this morning I'm accompanying Debbie, RJ's wife, to help her pick out a dress for her cousin's wedding next weekend. So you woke up this morning because you're accompanying Debbie, right? It's not like that. Debbie won't arrive until 11 o'clock. In fact, I woke up early in the morning because I just wanted to spend time with you. Then let's go back to bed so I can demonstrate how much I love you. I know you love me, and tonight I'm going to show you how much I love you. In the meantime, please sit down and enjoy your breakfast. Yes, dear." The surprise breakfast was wonderful, and I really appreciate our time spent together. While Holly was cleaning the kitchen, I went outside to mow the lawn and wash the cars. Just as I finished washing the car, Debbie arrived. When we entered together, she accompanied me to check if Holly was ready. I have to say that Holly is never late. Debbie asked me, "Well, Baba, what are you going to do while Holly is there? Spend your money?" Perplexed, I replied, "What are you talking about? As far as I understand, you are both going shopping in search of a dress, which means that you are using RJ's funds." Laughing, Debbie replied, "If Holly buys anything, it better be a new kitchen faucet." Trying to clarify the situation, I replied, "In the clothing stores where we will shop, faucets are not sold. Before you freshen up and start studying, wouldn't it be great if you bought a new kitchen faucet? You were present when I talked about the desired mixer model. Great idea. I'll grab a barbecue sandwich while I'm outside. I love you too." Returning home with a delicious sandwich and a new kitchen mixer, I sat down comfortably, indulged myself with food, and began to make an extensive to-do list. Installing a mixer when I was still wearing dirty work clothes seemed to me the perfect starting point. After carefully studying the instructions attached to the mixer and collecting my set of tools, I removed all the things from under the sink, preparing for the installation process. However, when I tried to remove the old mixer, I realized with a shudder that I did not have a suitable key for this task. Now, I had two options. I could either go back to the store and buy the necessary key, or borrow it from my father. Buying a new key with access to my father seemed unwise, but I understood that if I came to my father today, I would inevitably get caught up in a conversation and would not have time to return home to complete my tasks. My mother had a talent for captivating me with her stories for more than an hour. Therefore, given the tight deadlines for completing the training task, I decided to purchase a wrench. After taking a refreshing shower, I went to my office in the basement to work hard on my MBA project. I quickly immersed myself in my project, completely losing touch with time and other thoughts. It wasn't until I heard Holly and Debbie's voices through the baby monitor that my attention was redirected. Just 2 minutes later, Holly opened the basement door and called my name. When I left the office, I replied, "I'm down here." Holly seemed surprised and asked, "Are you back yet, Bubba? It's 7 o'clock. Have you been asleep?" I assured her, "No, I've been working hard on my project. Probably time flies by unnoticed when you get real pleasure from what you do." I promised to join them in a few minutes and went upstairs. True to my word, I joined the ladies in the kitchen just a couple of minutes later. Turning to Debbie, I eagerly asked, "Well, will you show me the dress you bought?" Debbie nodded and led us into the room, showing off the dress with obvious pride. After admiring it, I complimented Debbie. "I think it looks amazing, and I'm sure everyone at the wedding will think the same." She gracefully replied, "Thank you, sir. It will look even better tomorrow when Holly and I match it with a pair of shoes." Grinning, I added, "I can't believe how much time you women spend on shopping trips, but it's your time and RJ's money." Playfully teasing, I turned to Holly and asked, "Holly, does that mean you're going to make breakfast in the morning?" Smiling, she replied, "Yes, I'll make us breakfast and spend the morning with you." "Damn, I can definitely get used to it," I said with satisfaction. "Have I told you how much I love you?" Holly gratefully replied. "Thank you, and I love you too." Later, lying in bed, Holly tried to show her love for me, but we decided to just enjoy each other's presence and not indulge in it anymore. On Sunday afternoon, I found myself back in my basement office engrossed in work. After about 3 hours of work, I felt the need to take a short break. When I was about to go through the surveillance footage, I heard Holly and Debbie talking upstairs. I was looking forward to Holly opening the basement door and inviting me to look at Debbie's newly purchased shoes. A note of sarcasm flashed through my thoughts. Ah, just what every man craves the opportunity to admire another pair of shoes. Being an attentive and caring husband, I willingly went upstairs to admire the newly acquired shoes. After expressing my approval, I praised them for job well done, noting the 4-hour work to find the perfect pair to complement the dress. Both Holly and Debbie were beaming with gratitude, responding with gratitude to gratitude. Monday morning came, and I was happy to return to my usual game of basketball with the guys. I felt refreshed and revitalized, having returned to my usual schedule doing what brought me joy. But on Tuesday, the plans changed a little. I received an email from my teacher informing me that classes were being canceled due to family circumstances that he needed to resolve. In addition, my afternoon conversation with the seller was interrupted because John, my colleague, had to attend a meeting with his father, who, as it turned out, is the owner of our company. Having made a decision, I decided to leave work early. For the first time in a year, I had the opportunity to finish the day ahead of schedule, and even without having to attend classes. There was free time, and I thought about how to use it to the maximum benefit. I came up with the idea to replace the faucet in the kitchen as a surprise for Holly. I quickly changed into more suitable clothes and got on the motorcycle, heading to my father to get the necessary wrench. After parking the motorcycle near my father's workshop, I went inside to find a wrench. Rummaging in my pockets, I came across a box with old photos. Putting the box on a sturdy workbench, I plunged into a nostalgic journey, sorting through these intimate memories. The box contained many family photos from 3 decades. Sorting them out, I instinctively chose the pictures I wanted to make copies of, imagining a future in which I could someday share these precious memories with my children. Suddenly, my attention was distracted by the sight outside the window. Holly and my mother appeared from the basement door, having a quiet conversation with my mother holding a handful of money in her hands. Their eyes were fixed somewhere in the distance, in the direction of the house of RJ's parents. This scene left me pleasantly surprised but curious about their interaction. But what really shook me to the core was the sight of RJ and my boss Harry walking through the gate. The shock of their joint presence overwhelmed me, leaving an indescribable feeling of disbelief and amazement. I froze in place, struck by the realization that this is not just a case of treason. It took a few minutes before my thoughts regained clarity, and I was able to think about what to do next. Knowing the truth about Holly in a matter of days, I made my way from the workshop to the basement window, not knowing what to expect. I looked inside, and what unfolded before my eyes was nothing less than a shocking revelation. Suffice it to say that my mother organized everything for financial gain. I wondered if my father knew about these rigged events. Grabbing my cell phone, I dialed my father's number on the phone in the workshop, hoping to get at least some clarity from him in these perplexing circumstances. To my surprise, my father went down the stairs and entered the basement. It became clear that there was no need to call him since he was already aware of the situation. Apologizing for being late, he explained that he had gone out to buy a drink. He invited me to have a nice time and asked my mom to take me upstairs. Taking advantage of the opportunity, I quickly took a few pictures and returned to my business. First of all, I started studying the divorce law in South Carolina, browsing various websites for information. Then I visited several divorce lawyers in Columbia to get their professional advice. An interesting fact that I learned during this process: if you meet with a lawyer and pay for his services, then even if you decide to refuse his services in the end, your spouse will also not be able to resort to his services in the state of South Carolina. I found out that I could file for divorce without guilt just by not living with her for 1 year. Alternatively, I can file for divorce on the grounds of adultery. At the same time, all the lawyers I consulted stressed that if I choose adultery, I will need a witness who will confirm that I was a direct witness of her infidelity. Unfortunately, my own testimony and photos on the phone were not enough to make a decision on the case of adultery. Now you're probably wondering why it didn't meet her face-to-face and take immediate action. Rest assured, I do not intend to leave everything as it is. But before proceeding further, I need to follow my plan and carefully consider the best course of action. I took out a list of phone numbers from my wallet and started dialing them. Following the advice of the lawyers I consulted, as a precaution, they offered to open new bank accounts exclusively in my name. So the first thing I did was call my bank's ATM. Through the system, I transferred most of our funds to newly open accounts. Then I contacted the credit card company and asked them to lower our credit limit to an amount that is only $50 or more than the current account balance. This step was taken due to the fact that the division of property in a divorce is usually made on the basis of its value at the time of separation. Today is the day of our official separation, so it is important to determine the current financial situation. By taking these steps, I secured myself and established a clear financial distinction for the future. The last call was made to a reputable security firm, which was highly recommended to me by the lawyers I consulted. Having already conducted interviews and agreed on the terms, they were looking forward to my call. When I got through, Lonnie's supervisor undid the answer. I explained my situation to him and asked 3 agents to come to my parents' house. I asked them to sneak into the house through the neighbor's backyard, taking a camera and a video camera with them. In addition, I asked them to turn off the call on my mobile phone and put it into vibration mode. Then I sat at the window waiting for their arrival. The encouraging news that my wife did not have an affair brought a little relief against the background of the shocks experienced. The sad news is that she has taken up a profession that I consider indecent. This news struck me deeply. At this time, while I was waiting, my parents went to their car, the destination of which was unknown to me. I took out a 30-inch pipe, hoping that it would serve me as a means of self-defense. By the will of fate, the parents returned before the arrival of Jim, Derek, and Connie because of their actions. I don't want to call the mom and dad anymore. About 45 minutes after my call, Jim, Derek, and Connie finally showed up. After we exchanged introductions and pleasantries, it was possible to move on. I asked Jim to activate the video camera while I called Lonnie at the security agency. During the conversation, I informed Annie that Jim was recording our conversation and that he was on speakerphone. As soon as we hung up, I asked Lonnie to call me on my cell phone and leave a message. This was done so that we could check the date and time of our conversation without a doubt. Lonnie agreed, and 2 minutes later, we played back his message. "We're done here. Having confirmed the date and time, we went to the window in the basement. Connie was instructed to take a close-up photo of everyone in the room so that there would be no problems with identification later. Meanwhile, Jim started recording what was happening inside, and only after that, Derek, Jim, and I went inside. It took about 3 minutes before they realized that we were standing and watching them. Holly was the first to break the silence, uttering the familiar words that traitors often utter when confronted with them. "My God, Baba, you shouldn't have found out about this. I'm really sorry for interrupting you. I'll stay here for a while, and then you can continue your fun." They froze in place, perhaps from shock at the sight of me, from the security staff, or from both. "Holly, I strongly ask you not to bring your friends to my house. You'll find your items in the entryway tomorrow from 7 to 9 p.m. Everything that you don't have time to pick up before 9:01 p.m. will be stored in the garage until I throw them into the city dump. For now on, you're not welcome in my house. Please don't try to enter. I'll change the locks tonight as soon as I get back. Baba, please let me come home so I can explain everything. What's there to explain? I want to ask, do you truly love me? Yes, I love you, but you don't understand what true love is. You may think you love me, but I never need your version of love. Please don't say that. Just listen and be quiet. I don't care what you want to say. Anything you say won't change the real state of things." My father, having plucked up the courage, intervened. "Baba, maybe you need a little time to cool down. Why don't we come to your house tomorrow and discuss this? I don't need time to cool off. Both you and your wife are undesirable in my house. You can't address your mother or me in such a disrespectful way. I am your father, and I will not tolerate such behavior in our house. Rest assured that I will never cross the threshold of this house again. Now please have a seat, George. I will never have enough respect for you and Barbara to call you Mom and Dad again. The moment you allow my wife to commit treason and let her betray me, you lost my respect. How can you even look at yourself in the mirror? How else can you look me in the eye? As far as I understand, you both passed away today. Look at me, bitch. I have to say that you deceived me a lot by betting my boss Harry, my best friend RJ. If I'm not mistaken, I have no idea how many people you've deceived until today. I will name everyone so that my lawyer knows who to name and my application for divorce on the grounds of adultery. But Jim and Derek are my independent witnesses to your adultery today." At that moment, everyone seemed to regain the power of speech. "I won't bore you with their threats and pleas. I want you all to listen to me very carefully. I never want to see any of you again. If you suddenly see that you are coming towards me, I strongly recommend that you turn around and get as far away from me as possible. Take this warning seriously, and George, that goes for you too. I am no longer your son, and I will become your worst nightmare if you dare to approach me. RJ, it's very important for you to understand the seriousness of my words. Yes, I understand. And one more thing, did you suggest Jason's grandfather to watch Holly? I asked. No, it wasn't me, but I was surprised by the number of people willing to help. It seems that the grandparents and their friends are well aware of Holly's dirty behavior. None of them know about Holly's actions. RJ replied, "Do you understand the consequences of what I will do if I manage to get my hands on you?" "Yes, Baba, I understand and I apologize. I know that you will all apologize, but it's pointless. Your only regret is that you got caught. If you really felt remorse for me, you would never have started an affair with my wife, let alone continue it after I suspected her of cheating. You manipulated the investigation, trying to deceive me into believing in H's loyalty, but you never had the intention to end the relationship with her, Harry. I decided to take tomorrow off as a personal day to remove the most painful reminders from my house. I'm Thursday. After returning from the landfill, I will go into the office and give Bob my resignation. I strongly recommend that you avoid being in the office on Thursday. Your wife will be informed of your actions before the end of the week, Harry. Do you really understand and believe everything I've told you? Yes, I understand. Please, I'm begging you not to tell my wife. I have already spent a considerable amount of money on your wife and parents. Don't involve them, especially my parents. They are trying to make money on the betrayal of their daughter-in-law. I can't understand why you're all so disgusting. Holly knew perfectly well that I would never agree to such a lifestyle, and she should have been honest with me before we got married. At that moment, Holly spoke up. Baba, I couldn't bring myself to tell you. You wouldn't have married me, and you're absolutely right. You were fully aware of this, and yet you continued to deceive me behind my back. I've spent 4 years of my life loving a lying man, but I refuse to waste another minute of my time thinking about you. Now be silent and don't interrupt me anymore, Harry and RJ. It's only fair that both of your wives find out the truth that they are married to lying and mean people. I promise you that they will be notified by the end of this week. If they need anything from me to support them at this time, I will readily provide it. It took a few more minutes to realize the full weight of what was said, and now, before I leave, I want to repeat once again that none of you should try to contact me. I don't want to hear from you, Holly. You're only allowed to be on the roadway. Don't wander around the house. Don't knock on the door. Don't stand on the roadway, and don't call me. You have 2 hours to pack your things and leave. As I headed for the door, something caught my attention. A DVR mounted on a tripod. Without hesitation, I picked up the camera and turned to the group, sarcastically remarking, "Great, I'll take this with me. Don't worry, I'll return it as soon as I make a copy for my lawyer." Jim and Derek were standing outside the door, and I got on the motorcycle and drove home. Jim, Derek, and Con were instructed to wait outside for another 30 minutes before coming to my house with evidence. When I got home, I replaced the locks I had already bought and changed the message on the answering machine. I took a beer and waited patiently for Jim to arrive. Derek and Con told me that Holly and her companion hurriedly dressed and left a few minutes after I left. It seems that no one wanted to talk. All attention was focused on getting away as soon as possible. Jim handed me the evidence memory cards. I expressed my gratitude to them, and they wished me good luck and left. A lot of things have happened over the past 6 weeks, and I will try to briefly tell you about them. The day after our meeting, Harry's lawyer contacted my lawyer. Apparently, Harry was interested in making a deal so that his name would not appear in the media. Surprisingly, it turned out that not only seeks to avoid publicity, Jada shares the same sentiments. My lawyer contacted her and asked what I should do. I have instructed them to inform Harry and Jada's representatives to submit their best offer in writing by tomorrow, after which I will consider their proposal. I made it clear that I would not accept any verbal agreements. Holly followed my instructions and spent a little over an hour packing her things in the car. When I went outside at 9:01 p.m., everything had already been taken out, and there was no trace of things left. On Thursday morning, I had a meeting with Bob, during which I handed him a letter of resignation. When he asked me why I was leaving so suddenly without 2 weeks' notice, my answer stunned him. I told him that on Tuesday, I caught Harry and RJ having an affair with my wife. To confirm my words, I made a short pause and then handed him some incriminating photos. As a result, Harry and RJ were fired from their positions on Friday. On Thursday, Holly's father left a message on my answering machine expressing his curiosity about the situation. In response, I decided to email him some convincing photos showing his daughter's involvement. He hasn't called since. I decided to call him and ask, "Do you know that my parents are involved in this?" There was a brief silence before he quietly replied, "Yes." I continued, "Did you know they were helping Holly?" This time the pause dragged on before I heard, "My God, you found out. I couldn't believe it. So you knew and didn't tell me?" I stated, filled with anger. I replied, "I not only found out, but also have photos as proof. Now I'm going to tell you the same thing I told your parents. You're dead to me." Pulling myself together, I said in an assertive tone, "Never, never try to contact me again." With that, I slowly hung up the phone. The next morning, I took action. I contacted the phone company and received a new phone number that was not included in the list. As a result of the discovery of the involvement of people close to me, friends and family members, I was forced to make a number of important decisions that changed my life. First of all, I decided to hold my head high, fully aware that I had done nothing wrong. My desire to live with dignity remained unchanged. Secondly, I have introduced a new daily routine. On Mondays and Wednesdays, I started running, finding solace and strength and physical exertion. In addition, I decided to do strength training on my own, which allowed me to focus on personal growth and self-improvement. Yesterday, I organized a meeting at my lawyer's office with the wives of those men who were trying to buy themselves out of trouble. During the meeting, I provided them with copies of all the evidence I had collected, including the money offer presented to me. It was very important for these women to understand what level of men they were married to, since I do not consider infidelity acceptable for a family union. It wasn't up to me to determine how my actions would affect their marriage. That decision was up to them, but I firmly believe that they deserve to know the truth. With the help of my lawyer, a meeting was arranged between Holly, her lawyer, and me. During this meeting, my lawyer showed a video clip with my proposal to settle the dispute. To my surprise, Holly agreed to the terms offered. After the meeting, my lawyer gave me a letter from Holly. Without thinking, I threw it in the trash without even opening it. As for other news, I should note that my house belongs only to me. According to my grandfather's will, he left me one of his rented apartments. This generous gift was made before I met Holly. Having their home unencumbered by mortgage payments is a real liberation. Barbara kept calling and leaving the same message every day until I changed my phone number. Her words were always the same, Baba. I'm sorry, and I will always love you. And yet it's hard for me to understand how she could truly love me. Personally, I think that a mother should not love her son so much. As for Holly's forgiveness, it's safe to bet your last dollar that this won't happen in my lifetime. I also provided information that Holly was a corrupt girl to her employer, after which she was fired. In conclusion, I will tell you what I learned a year after my divorce from Holly. She continued her professional career as a selling girl. She was seen by one of my colleagues when he was having fun in his company. He invited a professional girl for intimate pleasure, and it turned out to be Holly. Apparently, Holly couldn't find a decent job and decided to earn money in such a familiar way. Story 3. My name is John. I'm 37 years old, and I've been married to my wife, Kate, for 2 years. Kate, who was 35 years old, works as a teacher at a city college, and I'm engaged in marketing. Our paths crossed at a party of mutual friends, where we immediately found a common language and struck up a friendship. Over time, we communicated on social networks, but our relationship remained platonic for quite a long time. During this period, Kate was already dating someone, and I was going through a breakup. Before years ago on her birthday, I congratulated her on Facebook, which significantly affected our relationship. Until late at night, we continued to communicate without a break, and before we knew it, morning came. Having decided to prolong our communication, we decided to meet the next day and arrange an informal date over a cup of coffee. By a happy coincidence, Kate had no plans for the upcoming birthday, and I took it upon myself to make it unforgettable. We went to a lovely dinner and drove together for a long time, deepening our affection. From that moment on, our relationship developed, and 2 years ago, we got married and officially became husband and wife. Last month, we happily celebrated our second wedding anniversary. Life went on as usual until a few weeks ago. A close friend turned to me with an unexpected revelation. I suddenly crossed paths with a young man who looked to be in his 20s. Intrigued by their friendly communication, I asked my friend what was wrong with it, suggesting that perhaps it was just a casual acquaintance. However, my friend hesitantly replied that their body language speaks of much more than just friendship. They were sitting close to each other. The man's hand was on Kate's waist, and his lips were touching her cheeks. My friend admitted that he froze for a moment, hoping that it was just a misunderstanding. But unfortunately, he witnessed their warm, intimate embrace. Curiosity got the better of me, and I asked if my friend had managed to film their meeting. Unfortunately, he explained that the situation developed so unexpectedly that he did not have time to take a single picture. In addition, being in a public place, he was afraid of incurring the disapproving looks of others for photographing a couple in an intimate setting. Despite the credibility of my friend's story, it seemed to me too vague to tell Kate directly about what he witnessed. I couldn't bring myself to call or cheat or based only on someone else's observations. When I got home, I found Kate immersed in a book, seemingly oblivious to the events that had taken place. I found myself in a dilemma. I wanted to find out if Kate was really dating her friend that day, but I could not find the right approach that would not arouse suspicion and would not sound accusatory. It dawned on me that everything would be easier if we were a couple who shared all the details of their daily lives. Although we shared important moments, there were still boundaries when it was necessary to share everything to make the conversation easier. I struck up a light conversation with Kate by inventing a story about meeting an old school friend during a meeting with a client. Surprisingly, he turned out to be one of our clients. Continuing the conversation, I casually mentioned that my meeting with a school friend led to the fact that we had lunch together. Kate reacted quite casually, remarking dispassionately, "Oh, that's great. It must have been nice to meet your old friend." I just nodded in agreement, trying to find out the details. I asked about her day, hoping to get more details, but she replied that the day passed as usual without incident and plunged back into the book. It felt like something was wrong. If this mysterious person really was just a friend or colleague, she would most likely have mentioned the lunch meeting. Now it became clear that this was not just an acquaintance. After that day, my senses sharpened, and I began to closely monitor Kate's every move. For several days, I watched her closely, but her behavior seemed innocent and devoid of any suspicious actions. And yet, the nagging feeling wouldn't leave me, forcing me to take the next step, checking her phone. To this end, one night when she was fast asleep, I took the opportunity to access her phone. Having gained access, I saw that her mailbox and social networks were relatively clean and consisted exclusively of general conversations with colleagues and students. Not calming down, I began to study the log of her calls in search of possible clues. To my surprise, scrolling through Kate's phone, I found nothing alarming or suspicious. But deciding to dig deeper, I focused on the call history from the day my friend saw her with another man. It was during this period that I came across a phone call that intrigued me. The contact was saved under the name Rumi16, which meant that he was one of her students from the 2016 group. Kate had a habit of saving her students' contacts with their names and batch numbers for easy recognition. This discovery left me perplexed. Given the context of her relationship with this particular student, it could be assumed that she was sitting in a close circle of friends. I noticed that I skinned the chats of her colleagues and friends, but completely ignored the chats with her students, which seemed strange and disturbing to me. The idea that my wife might have an affair with one of her students would never have occurred to me. Curiosity got the better of me, and I opened her WhatsApp again. To my shock, there was evidence of a month-long exchange of explicit messages between them. The previous messages were dated 2016 and contained words of farewell and wishes of all the best. I found out that about 2 months ago, he wrote her a message saying that he had returned to the city. It turned out that after graduating from university, he moved to Texas. Since I didn't have much time, I decided to export the entire chat to my email and then delete the conversation history. I wanted to carefully read all the messages they exchanged to understand how deep their connection was. During the night, I repeatedly looked through the messages, gradually discovering the truth that there was a physical relationship between them. Their relationship began in the last year of college when Kate became one of his teachers. Gradually, Rumi began to realize that Kate felt a certain sympathy for him, which led him to subtly flirt with her. Initially hesitant, Kate eventually succumbed to an inexplicable desire to experience physical intimacy with him and confess her desires to Rumi. From that moment, their physical relationship began. But towards the end of his college studies, Rumi became attracted to another woman and fell in love. It turned out that Rumi's new love interest was the daughter of a wealthy businessman from Texas. After graduating from university, he decided to move to Texas with his girlfriend. Upon learning about this, Kate felt very disappointed. Trying to cheer her up, Rumi repeatedly communicated with her in the last months of their college studies. Reading the messages on her phone, I managed to get only to the point of farewell wishes, after which I paused. Fortunately, exploring the entire chat allowed me to get a complete picture of this narrative. I very much doubt that Kate would have gone into so much detail about all these details. Interestingly, during this period, Kate really had a relationship with another person. Such a revelation suggests that she has always been prone to deceit and betrayal. After Rumi's departure, he and Kate maintained minimal contact, exchanging the usual wishes on birthdays and at Christmas. But about 3 months ago, Rumi got in touch and said he was back in town with his new wife. It turned out that his wealthy girlfriend from Texas became his life partner. As it turned out, Rumi has now taken responsibility for his father-in-law's business in the city. He contacted Kate and started a conversation expressing longing for her physical presence and a desire to test her again. At first, Kate resisted these offers, but eventually she gave up and entered into a series of intimate meetings with Rumi. Judging by the scan messages, this happened 4 to 5 times. By the time I finished reading the history of their correspondence, it was already dawn. After trying to get some rest, I eventually fell asleep. By the time I woke up, Kate had already left for college. I cooked and ate my breakfast, then went to the office. Returning home at the end of the day, I noticed Kate's absence. She usually returned from college around 5 o'clock in the evening, but now it was already 7 o'clock in the evening and she still hadn't returned. Usually, her habit of spending time with friends and colleagues after class didn't bother me, but this time, I felt that something had changed. I really wanted Kate to come home so that we could sort out the situation and move on. Armed with all the evidence, I couldn't delay the inevitable. The burden of exposure seemed suffocating to me, and I only wished for its speedy resolution. Time passed, and I was seized with anxiety. I dialed her number and urgently asked her to come home. Concerned about my unusual behavior, she asked if everything was okay. After 30 minutes, she appeared on the doorstep of our house. When she came into the house, I was waiting for her on the porch. The absence of a phone or iPad indicated that this was a serious matter. Sensing the seriousness of the situation, she hurried to me and anxiously asked what was the matter. Apologizing, I said that I had interrupted her meeting with Rumi, if that was really his name. Her expression turned cold and she demanded further explanations. I replied that there was no need to continue playing hide-and-seek. In response, she accused me of unfounded accusations. I presented her with the chat export data, and she froze in disbelief. There was silence while she was processing the information, and suddenly she accused me of violating her privacy. I couldn't help but wonder, really. I secretly got into her phone, which is undoubtedly a violation of her privacy, and she considers herself entitled to unceremoniously invade the personal space of other men. It was a shocking double standard. Curiosity got the better of me, and I couldn't resist asking if her previous breakup was related to this roommate. She snapped back, saying it was none of my business, but I persisted like an obsessive. In the end, she gave up and confessed. When she found out the truth, it turned out that her previous relationship collapsed when her boyfriend found out about her affair with one of the students. I couldn't help but grin and wonder how she could be so stupid as to jeopardize a stable and calm relationship for the sake of a man who clearly didn't understand his own life. In response, she began to defend herself, claiming that he caused her some kind of addiction. I was puzzled by this. Is there illegal substances flowing in his blood? Feeling disappointed and betrayed, I firmly told her that she should leave home since we live on my territory. To my surprise, she remained unperturbed and ruthless. She flippantly dismissed the seriousness of the situation, saying that it was purely physical contact devoid of any emotional connection. Trying to convince me, she urged me to change my mind, accusing me of impulsive behavior. Convinced of the correctness of my decision, I replied with a simple "so be it" and asked her to leave. Angered by my firmness, she stamped her foot and stormed into the house, showering me with insults and predicting that I would soon regret my decision. According to her, in 2 days, I will crawl back and beg her to come home. I couldn't help but laugh at her delusional reasoning. I made it clear to myself that begging for reconciliation is something I will never stoop to. While she was packing her things, I sat on the porch and silently watched the painful end of our relationship. Without looking in my direction, she walked past me and headed for the exit. Finding my voice, I informed her that I would soon send the divorce papers. If she really values her self-respect as she claims, then I beg her to sign them without objection. She said nothing and disappeared from sight. I was struck by her behavior as if I was to blame for the whole story just because I dared to check her phone. When I exposed her infidelity and made claims against her, a feeling of anger emanated from her as she prepared to leave the house. It was clear that she would not allow the situation to develop smoothly and without a fight. If she had kept up the appearance of politeness, I might have thought about leaving things as they are, but her tantrums and disobedience sparked in me the desire to break her ego. Deciding to gather more information, I started searching for a companion on social networks. Fearing that he would block me as soon as he discovered my presence, I looked at his profiles on the internet and even sent a friend request to his wife who had a personal account. At the same time, I took the necessary measures to protect my interests by hiring a lawyer to conduct the upcoming trial. After waiting for 2 days and not receiving a response from Rooney's wife to my friend request, I decided not to wait any longer. Instead, I took matters into my own hands and sent her some excerpts from frank conversations between Rooney and Kate. To my surprise, she responded quickly within an hour, expressing curiosity and demanding more details. In response, I told her that I was Kate's husband, with whom Rooney had an affair. To further emphasize the seriousness of their relationship, I also shared a fragment of a chat where Rooney discussed her business in her wealthy father's business. In treat, she asked if I could provide her with the entire conversation for review. Although I had a desire to meet Rooney's wife and tell her about everything in person, I hesitated, realizing that such an act might seem creepy or intrusive. Instead, I asked for her email address and immediately sent her a transcript of the chat. Interested in how I managed to find out the truth, she asked for a detailed explanation, and I agreed, giving her a thorough account of the events and urging her to read the messages carefully. A few hours later, she replied, asking if I had talked to Kate about the situation. Without hesitation, I confirmed that this was the case. After our conversation, Rooney's wife suddenly went offline, and I began to worry about her well-being. I tried to contact her, but she stayed offline for the last 3 days. Such a long absence increased my fears for her safety, especially considering the ulterior motives of Rooney, who used her for the sake of her father's wealth. Desperately trying to contact her, I exhausted all possible communication channels, including their social media accounts and email addresses, but so far without success. We can only hope that she is safe and sound. In this alarming situation, I am grateful to everyone for the support and encouragement I have received in connection with my decision to divorce. This confirmed my confidence that it was the right choice, despite the fact that at first I doubted the impulsiveness of my decision. The positive reaction of people applauding my courage filled me with a new sense of confidence. Now I would like to tell you about the latest developments. As I mentioned, Rooney's wife didn't answer the phone and disappeared for a whole week. When I finally got the answer, instead of relief, I couldn't get rid of my suspicions. I doubted if it was really her or if Rooney was impersonating her on the phone. To dispel doubts, I asked for a call. Fortunately, she saw the messages in which I expressed concern for her safety and immediately called me. At that moment, a wave of relief swept over me. She informed me that after reading the messages, she didn't waste any time and immediately booked a ticket for the earliest flight to Texas. Have you heard about what happened between Rooney and his father-in-law? This is quite an interesting turn of events. Instead of directly telling Rooney about the deception, his father-in-law went the other way. They stated that they had discovered some irregularities in the accounting records of the office run by Rooney and insisted that he keep his distance from his wife until this issue was resolved. Rooney was puzzled by the sudden suspicion on the part of his in-laws and could not determine the true reason. Apparently, the father-in-law believed that going to court about infidelity would not cause Rooney much harm, since courts usually do not impose serious punishments only for extramarital affairs. The possible consequences of Rooney's infidelity if the case went to court were reduced, at best, to the demand for alimony as compensation for the emotional suffering of his wife. But Rooney's father-in-law had motives beyond monetary compensation. He sought nothing less than to completely destroy him. A few days later, I received an unexpected message. It was a message from Rooney, who bluntly said, "Dude, your wife is just delusional. She makes up stories and insists that I marry her. Does she not understand that there is a significant age difference between us? Of course, we had intimate contact, but that doesn't mean I have to marry everyone I sleep with." Subsequently, when Rooney told Kate about his problems with relatives, she shifted the blame to me, saying that I had leaked the transcript of the chat to Rooney's wife. But Rooney explained that no one discussed the affair itself, and all attention was focused on the alleged accounting problems in their company. Rooney suspects that Kate took advantage of the situation to force him to marry her. To be honest, I couldn't help but laugh at Rooney's messages. It seems that he, like Kate, was mistaken, sincerely believing that his in-laws were genuinely offended by him. It became clear that Rooney's relatives were concerned exclusively with accounting issues and did not know about his infidelities. About a month after this revelation, the divorce papers were finally prepared. Trying to get information about Kate's whereabouts, I contacted her mother and asked if Kate was staying with her. My question took her mother by surprise since Kate was not with her. Worried, she asked if everything was all right. I decided to be honest and told her the truth, but she hardly believed my words and insisted on seeing the evidence. By this point, constantly proving the truth to all participants in the process had already become tedious. Indeed, I was in a relationship with this woman for a significant period of time, 4 years. We even managed to get married, which made the separation process even more painful. After enduring her abusive messages, I finally decided to block her. It's been a week and she still hasn't signed the divorce papers. Trying to clarify the situation, I contacted Rooney's wife to find out how her divorce process was progressing. To my surprise, I found out that she is currently resting in the VAS, seeking solace and respite from mental anguish while her father deals with Rooney. I will provide an update as soon as these issues are resolved. I'm currently focused on taking my mind off Kate and moving on with my life. And now, the latest news, my divorce is officially settled. The way Rooney's father-in-law behaved made me doubt. He accused Rooney of embezzling funds from their company and somehow managed to bring evidence in favor of his claims during the trial. But whether Rooney was really guilty of these actions or he was unfairly framed remains unclear to me. Rooney's wife did not know the specific details of how her father was able to prove Rooney's fraud. As I have already said, she is a privileged person who may not fully understand the value of such daily necessities as vegetables. Apparently, Rooney's father-in-law used this deception as a basis for separating his daughter from Rooney and exerted significant influence on his wife's actions. As a result, Rooney was ordered to pay a significant fine within 3 months. Failure to comply with this requirement could lead to the initiation of a criminal case against him. The amount of the fine is really huge and represents a serious financial burden. Rooney's wife is convinced that the huge amount for which Rooney was fined is not affordable, which can lead to imprisonment. Such a financial burden, combined with significant damage to Rooney's reputation, exceeds the consequences that a simple betrayal could lead to. Rooney's father-in-law has shown himself formidable in dealing with such issues. As for my situation, Kate resorted to various tactics and tricks before agreeing to sign the divorce papers. She even went so far as to demand my house as part of the alimony. This is ironic when you consider that in the past, she has proudly defended feminist ideals. It is unpleasant to watch how Kate, despite claiming to adhere to certain moral principles, has sunk so low as to try to unfairly take my house away from me. She justifies this by saying that it is a question of feminism, which puzzles me, given that she cheated on me. The logic of her actions is questionable at best. Fortunately, I am immensely grateful to a qualified lawyer who fought hard to ensure that my property did not fall into her hands. I'm also grateful that I had proof of her infidelity, as they played a crucial role in protecting my rights. It is very unpleasant for me to hear the stories of victims who have faced similar situations without having such resources, and I understand how lucky I was to have the necessary support during this difficult period. It is very unpleasant to hear about the experiences of victims who are not only heartbroken, but also unjustly deprived of property and housing. In my own divorce case, I came out the winner, even though she decided to complicate everything to even the odds. I also decided to play along with her. She took the liberty of spreading false claims among her colleagues that I was unfaithful, and on this basis demanded a house as compensation for alimony. This caused sympathy and support from her friends and colleagues. Faced with these circumstances, I finally decided on actions that perhaps should have been taken much earlier. I forwarded several candid chats between Rooney and my lying wife to several of her colleagues, revealing the truth about her actions in a work environment. Gossip spreads like wildfire. Transcripts of the chat fell into the hands of various colleagues, and Kate became the subject of conversation in the staff room. Outraged by this, she called me from a landline phone and burst into a torrent of verbal insults, accusing me of leaking information from the chat. This time, I decided to stay in my ground. In response, I warned her in a cold and stern tone that she should sign the divorce papers or be responsible for the consequences. I made it clear that if she did not comply, then I would not hesitate to share chats not only with her friends, but also with college students, which could become another viral sensation in the city. Kate knew perfectly well that I was capable of carrying out my threat. Although I never intended to resort to such dirty tactics, she left me no choice. Even when her mother didn't believe my words, I refrained from handing over the evidence so as not to humiliate her in this way. In the end, Kate agreed to the terms of the divorce and signed the papers. During the subsequent court hearing, I finally got divorced and freed myself from her trap. My friends are trying to persuade me to start dating again, but I think it's better to wait a bit before diving into this area. After the last message from Rooney's wife about Rooney's court case, I did not keep in touch with her. Similarly, I lost interest in the situation with him. Our communication was connected exclusively with my divorce process, and now that everything is settled, I prefer to cut off all ties related to my past and current life. Now I want to move forward and start from scratch.